welcome to another episode of Booked, a place to explore the realms of creativity. Today's guest is the lovely Paulette Hampton. Thank you so much for joining me. How are you doing today?
Thank you for having me. I'm very thrilled to be here. A little nervous, but excited.
That's okay. I think people are nervous, or I get nervous because I want to do well because I am excited about something. So I think we wouldn't get nervous if we didn't care about things. So
That's true. That's
I'm
true.
going to take it as a compliment.
Yes, please do. Absolutely.
Well, I hope that you have lots of fun during this episode today, and I'm sure that before you know it, I'll be saying time's up.
Okay.
Um, I'm just gonna dive right in,
Sure.
because you have a fairly new release that has come out, at the time of recording anyway. So we're recording this in November. Um, the book is titled "Singing to the Fere Moon." It's a novella, is that right?
That's correct. It's
Cool,
a
and that's
sci-fi novella, yes.
so I read the blurb. I admittedly I have not read this one yet, but I read the blurb and I was very excited about it. So this is published through Alien Bit Press. Can you just tell me and the listeners what they can expect from this book?
Well, if I could back up just a little bit about how this book
Hmm.
came to be, if that's all right.
Please do. Yeah, I'd love to hear it.
Okay. Um, it uh, it came to me when I was in my 20s, the whole idea, and I am 53 now, so it's
Hmm.
never too late. Um, so in my 20s and my college age, I came up with a story about
Hmm.
this detective, the sci-fi detective, and his sidekick, and chasing after a certain villain. I don't want to give too much away because there's a little twist there. But I put it aside for however many years, and my I was telling my husband about it, and he said, "Oh, I would love to have that story. I would love for you to do that story for me." And I thought, "Well, okay." I wasn't, too excited about it, but he was excited about it. So I started getting back into it, and I got a rush. I got the passion back for that. And
I
so
love that.
after it took maybe about a year to get that
Mhm.
completed, and so I wrote it for him, and he loved it, and I thought, "Well, maybe someone else might like it too." So I've sent it out, and Alien Buddha Press picked it up.
That's so cool. You're actually the second writer who has published through Alien Bit Press that I've
Okay.
interviewed this week. Oh no, in the past week, which is really cool. It's nice to see indie presses with a
Yes,
lot of writers. It makes me really happy.
definitely.
It's really cool. So, what's the experience been like for you to go through a small press?
It's been great. It they've handled all the formatting and all that type of the marketing, things like that. It's
Hmm.
been really good. This is the first time for me, and I'm hoping it won't be the last.
I'm sure it won't be. It won't be.
But no, it was great working with them.
Good. So, was your plan to always sort of go with a publisher rather than self-publishing for this particular book?
For this one, yes, I got,
Mm.
when I was sharing the story with others, they were very excited about it, and I thought, "Well,
Mhm.
okay, let's see, someone else in the whole sci-fi sort of mindset might enjoy it," so I went
Mhm.
ahead and put it out there.
That's cool. So, what was the process like for you? Did you have to query with particular publishers? I've not had to do it yet. I'm scared scared to
Oh,
do
well,
it.
oh, yeah, you gotta jump in there,
Mm.
just get your feet wet. It is scary,
Yeah.
but Uh, yeah, I just set up my query letter
Mhm.
and had my synopsis, all those good things, the pitch and everything that you need.
Mhm.
And I set up a tracking system in Excel so I wouldn't
Mhm.
keep sending the same one to the same author
Mhm.
and set it up that way. And fortunately, they enjoyed it, they liked it, and asked me to share that with them. But
That's
otherwise,
lovely.
yeah, it's you dive in and then you wait, and you wait,
Mm.
and you wait, and that's the hard part, and sometimes you don't hear back,
Mm.
but sometimes you do, and it's not what you wanna hear, but, if you don't try, you won't know.
Exactly, and there's a lot of truth in that because I've spoken to a lot of writers now who have had an idea and not run with it straight away, or they've put things off. And I mean, sometimes it's for the better because you mature as a person, you go through more experiences, and especially in terms of actually creating something, you sort of give yourself the opportunity to have more material. But yeah, I don't know if I'm patient enough to go through the querying sort of side of things because I
Uh,
thought initially, oh yeah, definitely going to do that. The more that I hear about it, the more torturous it sounds. I don't know if I've got the stomach for
well,
it.
writers are tortured souls, so that kind of goes with it, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
but
love
it is.
writing.
I remember the first time I hit that email to send out a query letter, I was just so nervous, but after
Mm.
a while, it gets to be like, "Okay, let's just keep our fingers crossed on this one. It's not as terrifying."
Yeah, I suppose it's like exposure therapy, isn't it? You just keep doing the
Yes,
scary thing until it's
yeah,
not scary anymore.
that's right. It was like, "Oh, okay, I don't have enough, cortisol to keep me stressed, so I'll just go with it."
It's exactly what it is. Yeah, why not make ourselves feel uncomfortable? Um, so I mean, you seem pretty passionate about writing, and I notice little things here and there in the community. And one of the things I've noticed that you frequently attend writing spaces on Twitter. Um, I don't know if there are any other sort of groups that you belong to or that you sort of get involved with, but is it something that you do as frequently as I noticed, or have I just misunderstood what's happening?
Oh, no, no, absolutely, I do. There's, a a poetry space that I join on Tuesdays, and that
Hmm.
was the first thing that I joined on, Spaces.
Hmm.
And I was so nervous the first time. I would just
Mm.
kind of sit and listen to other people share their poetry, and then finally I got brave enough. So once I got into that, then I've got into another space called Read and Listen,
Hmm.
and that is where we share poetry or stories that we're working on.
That's
And
cool.
they are a great group of people, and that has really ignited my passion. I'm working
Oh,
on another novel now, and just getting their feedback and their guidance, it means the world. I'm not in a silo. I'm not all by
mm,
myself, and it feels good to reach out to other writers.
that's so cool. Are they quite busy groups? Are there many people that are sort of present during each time?
There's usually the same kind of core group, but then others will come in and join.
Mm.
And yeah, and now it's not in. I don't think it's in Spaces anymore. I think it's going to Discord at this point.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, is that the first time you've joined a sort of writing group or something similar before?
It is, and I was very nervous about it, but
Mm.
something kept, it's just that part of you, you're nervous, but it's you just have that passion and it's not going to go away. So you've got to,
Hmm.
you got to do something about it. And so just um, getting the support and encouragement from the writing community has been so great. And
Hmm.
these are good people, and I'd say, reach out and try to find a group that lifts you up.
Mm. It's great advice. I think, generally speaking, and it's not everybody, but generally speaking, writers are pretty community focused. Unless obviously, okay, I'm going to take that back a little bit. There are some writers obviously that like to keep to themselves and very
Right.
very, very solitary, but those who do interact in the sort of community space, generally speaking, are very very kind to one another because something that I really love about writing is that nobody is in competition with each other. And if
Right.
somebody feels that they're in competition with each other, they're just in competition with themselves. And you have to kind of change your priorities a little bit because if your book sells 1,000 copies, doesn't mean that my book sales are going to be any better or worse.
Right.
In fact, mine might be better because I'm associated with somebody that's doing well. But yeah, it's not a oh well, if you're reading this thing, you're never going to read my book because people notoriously read more than one book if they like reading. It's not
Exactly,
like you get
yes,
one per life.
yeah. And it's,
Um,
just so exciting to hear all the different stories, the different perspectives and
mm,
ideas. It's such a rich community.
that's so cool. So do you think that your like the quality of your writing has improved since you've joined these groups?
Oh, definitely so. I think
Mm,
so. Yeah, it's just good to listen and hear the wordsmithing other people use, and you kinda think, "Well, I wonder if that's an avenue I can take or a perspective I could take," and just
mhm,
kinda play around and mold around with what you've got going on already.
mm. That's awesome. I think it's fantastic. There are a few indie writers that I've interviewed for this show who have said that sort of the writing groups have made a significant difference.
Oh,
It's
that's
something that
so
I've
cool.
thought
That's
about,
so
but
cool.
again, it's the nerves, isn't it? It's
It
the
is.
it feels so vulnerable
It
because
is.
anything creative, I think, and I've said this before, is so vulnerable because you're almost expressing things that you don't wouldn't necessarily normally just say in conversation. It's something that's deeper and possibly darker or, more
Right.
sensitive than your sort of average day-to-day communication with people. So yeah, it's scary, but I'm glad that it's worked for you. That's really cool. And I don't think I've ever heard anything negative about being part of the
Right,
community.
right.
Um so so this is me buffering. I don't
That's
remember
alright.
what I was gonna
Buffer. Buffer all you need.
say.
Because 'cause I'm buffering. As you buffer, I'm buffering.
Excellent. Oh, so how much of your sort of day-to-day life is taken up with um your creative efforts? So it's writing or whatever other outlet you have.
I have a 9 to 5,
Hmm.
so that is most of my time, but in the evenings and on weekends,
Hmm.
I'll work on my poetry or my novel or some short stories I'll do.
Hmm.
But even throughout the day, things will pop into my head and, I'll write a little note to just kinda, keep it from fading out into the oblivion.
Hmm.
So, yeah, it's the creativity's throughout the day, but I can really just get my hands into it in the evening and
Mm.
weekends.
Do you find that when you have an idea for something that you kind of itch to do something with it when you're having to work?
Absolutely, I do. It is
Mm.
really hard to stay focused,
I
um,
bet.
but it is. It's like there's this thing, and I don't wanna sound creepy, but this thing inside of you, and it's being born, and it's gotta
Mm.
come out, and it's just yeah, you just cannot wait to get there and start
Hmm.
typing and working on the outline or whatever, however your process is. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's hard to stay focused sometimes.
I Now, I don't know if there are any working theories or philosophies or whatever the label would be for this, but I have this sort of idea that all creative people are just a little bit possessed with,
Okay.
with their own characters because every single writer, and this is a good thing because it means that we're all part of the same weird club, but every single writer I've spoken to has either said that the idea takes them over and they can't stop thinking about it until they get it out of their system,
Yeah.
or their characters take charge and all of a sudden they're part of the controls and they're I don't know if you've seen Men in Black. There's a little alien that lives inside
Yes.
that guy. Um, uh, it just it's so funny to me that everyone is in the same boat and we're all walking around like being spoken to by
M
somebody.
Makes
And
us feel better since we're not the only ones dealing with that. That's
yeah, it
yeah.
does because you think, oh, there's something going on in there, and I really don't know what the issue is. It's because like creating stuff, that's what the issue is,
Yeah.
but I suppose it's not an issue at all.
One of,
Um,
the things that I love when those characters do control you and
mm,
or possess you is when they surprise you, and that's happened
mm,
a couple times in my latest novel I'm writing, and it was
mm.
just kinda took off, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, really? That's happening? Oh my goodness," it's kinda like I'm watching it in a way.
Yeah,
So they're just
it's
kinda
amazing.
informing me, "This is what we're gonna do." So, yeah, that was
Mhm.
cool.
I I love when I write anything, and I haven't published very much at all because of fear of rejection. classic. But when I write anything, especially if it's say first person perspective, for example,
Mhm.
I'll feverishly write everything out, and it just keeps going and going until I'm done. And then I read it back and I go, "Who was saying that? It was not me. Like I don't talk like that. Who's that
It's like,
person?"
what is it called? Automatic writing? It's like, "Oh, all of a sudden something's possessed my hand, and here I go."
Yep, I can't help it. It's fine. It just means that we were
Completely
meant to
fine.
be doing it, so it's probably a good sign. Um, so something that I wanted to talk about, if you're happy to, is I read your memoir, When Life Was Yellow. It's got a slightly longer name, and I can't remember the rest of it. I apologize.
That's alright.
Um, but it's about your experiences with obsessive compulsive disorder, and personally, it spoke to me because I have a couple of people close to me that I love very dearly that I have just never been able to really understand, because they experience very, very similar things. And it took me a while to adjust to being around them and
Mhm.
to be patient with them and to understand that it is something that they can't help. It's taken a while, but we got there in the end. If I'd have had this book to read when like, as a handbook for these people that I love beforehand, it would have made all the difference in the world.
Oh, I'm so glad you got something out of that. That
I
is
really, really did.
good.
Uh, Um, was that hard for you to put out there, or was it therapeutic?
Uh, it took me because 'cause I've been wanting to do this for a couple of decades now. So it took a couple
Mm,
of decades to get the courage, and then to put it down on quote unquote paper, I had to relive a lot of that. A lot of things
mm,
were like, "Oh my gosh, yeah, I remember I did that." And so things would just kind of pop in my mind, and then some of the anxiety would rear its head again, and there
mm,
were times I had to step away from it because it was just getting a little bit too much, and I needed to have space
mm.
um, between myself and how I used to feel. I'm on medication now, so that helps a lot, and I have a
That's so
therapist.
good.
So that's a
Excellent.
nice combo for me anyway.
Good. I'm really glad that you're able to have a better quality of life because as I was reading it, especially in the moments when you were much, much younger and you were trying to figure out why, the rest of the world didn't work for you, essentially.
Right.
I found that really quite a struggle to read, and not in a bad way. It was like I just imagined the people I love that are close to me, having to grow up like that, and I just started feeling so bad for ever having like impatience for those people,
Mm, mhm.
or for being like that was weird because I mean it is, it's out of the
Well,
ordinary,
yeah, it's not. Yeah,
but
it's not the
yeah,
norm.
yeah, I think when I was younger, when my best friend is she's has compulsive tendencies.
Hmm.
And I just remember thinking when I was a teenager, oh my God, will you give it a rest? Or, oh, that's so fucking annoying. And sorry for swearing. I just didn't
No,
ask
no,
if that
that's
was
I'm
okay.
fine.
Um,
My ears
um,
didn't burn. I'm okay.
okay, good. But yeah, I just feel awful for being so impatient and misinformed because I mean, everyone as a teenager is a bit of an arsehole anyway. But
No.
yeah, I think as I've grown up and I've tried to look at how people navigate the world and why they do the things that they do and what is voluntary, what's involuntary. I think things like this, where you're giving your life experience in a very kind of raw way, is invaluable. So this is a message to the readers out there. If you have anyone in your life that behaves in a way that you don't understand, regardless of what that thing is, I would absolutely recommend reading that book
Awesome. Thank
because
you.
it puts the human in it, and I appreciate that a lot. So did you find that from the point that you decided you were going to commit to writing this to the point where you released it, did you feel any sense of relief to get it out there?
In some ways I did, in others, so it was kind of I was, "Oh my goodness, am I gonna get, negativity from this, from my
Mm,
family and friends to,
mhm,
Oh, I'd never, ever thought I would share this information with anyone. I was
Mm,
gonna keep it till the day I died, and the fact that society, I think, has has grown to where it's not such a stigma anymore to have a mental illness
mhm,
is says volumes, and for me to be able to share that, it touches other people, and it goes from
mm,
there, and so there was this a combo of relief and, "Oh my gosh," but I think, over time, the relief was the winning perspective on that.
mm. I imagine it is, and I mean, putting anything out there that's personal is stressful and nerve wracking anyway. But I think even if it changes one person's mind or gives somebody the feeling that they've been noticed or represented in any way, I think is well worth all of the sort of difficult
Yes,
feeling.
yes.
Um, do you have any? Let me think of the word. Do you have any like tips or advice that you can give writers that are considering doing something similar?
In terms
You
of
can think
doing a
about that.
memoir, kind of is that
Yeah, about doing a memoir or by expressing a part of themselves that they find difficult to talk about.
maybe start by journaling
Mm,
and capturing those feelings, those emotions down in that way, and then that might be easier to sift through and
mm,
kind of say, okay, this is something I want to bring up, or no, we're going to leave that out because it's your story, so you can have what you want out there. You can share what you want. You don't have to share
mm.
it all.
Yeah, that's a good piece of advice because I suppose even just the act of writing it down, not even putting it out there, the act of writing it down can be incredibly therapeutic. And I know a lot of
Absolutely.
people that use journaling as a tool. Um, yeah, I think it's incredible, and I'm glad that you wrote it. So thank you
Oh,
for
thank
for
you.
sharing it.
I appreciate that very much.
Of course. So you mentioned you're writing another book. Have you just got one in place at the moment? Have you got lots of things you're working on? I'd love to hear about your work or works in progress.
Uh, right now, I'm just working on the one
Hmm.
novel, and it's about a couple of girls. One who is not not really a girl. She's kind of strange, kind of otherworldly, and
Hmm.
but in that, it's like my other book of the Lilin
Hmm.
about a Cambion, this demon and human get
Hmm.
together and have a baby,
Hmm.
um, and that has a lot to do with otherworldliness and anxiety and how that plays into it. So this novel speaks to that as well, but with a different spin to it. It's not
Hmm.
as heavy or heady as of the Lilin. It's a little lighter and more for probably it's for like 10, 12 year olds
Oh, so it's for a younger audience.
or a younger audience. Yeah. But certainly older people can and read it too. But yeah, that's the main characters are those ages.
Cool. So with your storytelling, some people have like a message behind what they're writing, or they have like a specific thing that they want people to get out of the thing that they've written. Do you have like a core focus that you highlight within the book, or is it more about the story and take go through that journey?
It it's about the story, but there is a core piece that I've as I write, I see it coming back around again. It's like, okay, there it is again. And it's about someone's energy and how they put that out into the world and how they
Mm,
can calm their own energy in terms of being in the present moment and
mm,
breathing and just trying not to control everything because you can't. And only
mm.
worrying about what you can, only worrying about your reaction to things, your response. Um, but that's usually the message, and that's something I'm trying to learn. I think I'm writing it enough to where maybe it'll sink into my head at some point.
Trying to convince yourself that that's the way to
Exactly.
go.
That's right.
So um I'm not trying to make this about me. I'm
No, no.
just making an observation, which has just really got me. So at the time of recording this week, I have heard many people talk about um, adjusting your worldview to be more stoic. I've had it
Mm.
4 times already this week, and
Mhm.
was
Mhm.
it Tuesday, Wednesday? It's a Wednesday, which is really wild to me, and I'm wondering if the universe is trying to tell me something because I
Much like
discussed this at length yesterday. I spoke to a writer this morning that said it, and now you've said it, and I'm just thinking, what is going on? What am I
that's
worrying about that
interesting.
shouldn't be?
Wow.
Really, it gave me goosebumps, and I feel like I had to say it because it is something that is relevant in life and also creatively because if you worry about what other people are doing, that's wildly out of your control and you're
Certainly.
neglecting the things that actually matter. So I think it's fascinating. That's really
That is
taken me
very
by
cool.
surprise today. That was cool. I love it when stuff like that happens. Do
Okay.
you set deadlines for finishing things or do you take it at your own pace? Do you put much pressure on yourself as a writer?
I usually take it at my own pace.
Hmm.
Once I start getting close to the end, then I might set a deadline for myself.
Mm.
But usually it's pretty much okay, just whenever I get the time, in the evening or the weekend. And
Yeah.
then once I get real close to it, I'm like, okay, I'm going to have it done by such and such a date. So,
Cool. So, what is the plan for this book then? Are you gonna sort of go down a similar path to Singing to the Fair Moon and sort of query it? Are you gonna self-publish? What's the your feeling at the moment?
I think for this one, I will maybe put it out there for some literary agents or maybe some indie
Hmm.
press. We'll kind of see what
Hmm.
happens. Um, but certainly the self-publishing, I've done it several times, and that is always an option.
Mm. What? So obviously, because you've gone through both self-publishing and going through an indie press as well, do you find that self-publishing is a greater challenge in terms of like marketing and getting people to actually know that your book is there? um, because that seems to be a very common challenge that I'm coming across.
It is. It's definitely something that you have to put a lot of passion into as well. And
Mm.
quite honestly, I don't have that. I'd rather spend my time writing.
Yeah, I get it, I get
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Yeah, it's no mean feat to self-publish work at all because you have to spend almost more time marketing it and telling people
Mhm.
about it and getting it in front of people than you do actually writing the book itself, which is
Yes.
nuts and it's
Yes,
so
and it's
expensive.
constant. It's just
Yeah.
constant.
Hmm. You almost can't let people forget about you, which is
That's right.
can be hard for some people because I mean some writers are very they like to keep to themselves and putting themselves out there or saying like I'm great and you need to read my book is a massive challenge for a lot of people. um I know I would find that really difficult. So I'm sticking myself between a rock and a hard place because I'm like, I don't know if I've got the patience to go through the traditional route. And then part of me's like, no, I think everything I do is terrible. So I don't know if I want to tell people to read my book.
You have to figure something out there. You just have to
There
figure
needs to
something.
be, yeah,
Yeah.
there needs to be a secret third option that doesn't exist. I mean, I know there are tons, but anyway.
Um,
Um,
one tip I have for queries is
mm,
I have the list of the agent or the publisher and the
mhm,
date I sent it and what I sent, because sometimes it's just a query, sometimes it's a synopsis and a pitch. And
mhm,
then if I get a no thank you from them, I don't put rejection, I put declined. To me, that sounds a little
mm,
nicer. It's just declined.
mm,
Thank you very much. No thank you. So that helps me. So instead of seeing a bunch of rejections on the in the cells, I'll see decline.
mm. That's great advice because it can be a lonely world out there, and when it numbers wise, you're gonna have way more people declining or
Oh,
agents declining than agents
absolutely.
saying yeah, go on then.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
So yeah, if you can make the journey easy for yourself, then absolutely do that. So there are a lot of writers that go through editing services, or they will ask somebody to sort of go over their work. Have you had an experience with using editors or sort of beta readers that go through that sort of development process?
I have. I've had some friends to do the beta reading, but I've hired professional editor to go
Hmm.
through and look at my work. Um, it may not be in depth where they're saying, all right, you need to move this paragraph here and then do this with
Hmm.
this character, but it's more about the grammar and the typos because
Mm.
I'm feeling comfortable about what I'm putting out there. I just want to make sure that, it's been looked over and it's a quality product.
Oh, for sure. I think there's mixed sort of feelings about using editors because there are some people that think, oh, it is what it is, and if you don't like what I've produced, then that's that. But it seems that it's probably worth investing in that final sort of run through of a filter to say, okay, I know that this has been checked over by somebody
Hmm.
impartial. Because if you ask friends and family to review it, they're only
Right,
probably going to be quite nice about it.
right.
Um, because I think you forget that you will read the book over and over again, or read the poem, or whatever it is that you've written. You will become blind to the mistakes that you've
Yep,
made.
absolutely. You'll fill in what's
Mhm.
supposed to be there and not see what's actually there.
Oh,
So,
exactly. I might have said this in another episode, but I don't think I've told you, and I'm thinking you'll probably find it quite funny. Um, I read and reread and reread my prologue over and over and over again, and I asked somebody to read it, and they corrected a line. It was supposed to say she screamed at the top of her lungs,
mhm.
and it said she screamed at the top of her lunch.
Damn lunch.
It's a different word. So I was like, yeah, that looks great. That's fine for someone to read. And it was so embarrassing because I thought I'd read this so many times.
But yeah,
And it
you
just,
do, and you just feel like I should have caught it, but you just don't.
no,
You
it's
need fresh
mad.
eyes.
And I also think that, I don't know if you find the same, reading something out loud makes a huge difference as well. Even if it's to yourself, I mean, not
Mhm.
to an audience. I mean, you could do if you really wanted to. But I find that if I'm really getting stuck on something, I read it out loud and I try and put inflections in there and try and think, okay, well, actually, is the way I've written it the way it's supposed to come across? Because sometimes it's really challenging to get,
Yeah.
the vibe right
Yes,
of a
yes.
section. Um, Especially if there's like back and forth dialogue, or if you're using first person in your mind, you're writing in anger, for example, not
Mhm.
write in anger, but trying to write an angry part of the story, and it could come across as if it's part of a My Little Pony skit. So, is that something you do at all? Do you ever like read stuff to yourself to
I'll do that.
see if it makes
One of
sense?
the things I like to do is I use Word, and so I do the read aloud, so it reads it
Oh
to me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So that helps, and I'm kinda like, "What?" So, I'm going back and, seeing that that word wasn't quite right or,
Hmm.
something didn't make sense, and that it helps to hear it that way for me.
Yeah. What was she doing with her lunch?
She just screamed over it. So she
I
that's a
don't
tough.
know what I was thinking.
Mm.
I've actually started doing we call them dramatic readings in my house. So I live with my sister-in-law and my husband, and uh we all love like hearing stories. My husband doesn't really like reading, but my sister-in-law loves books, and so I've been like reading chapters out to them in a dramatic fashion. We kind of
Oh,
all sit
uh-huh.
around on the couches, and as I'm reading it, I think, nope, scrap that. That doesn't make sense. Why did I say that? Oh, I said that already. And it's so funny because I'm doing these like live edits, and I have to try and
Oh.
remember them as well. Um, but if you have anyone out there that that you can do that with, that's always a lot of fun as well. Because if you ask somebody to read over your book, 9 times out of 10, they're going to say yeah because they're in the mood to do it at the time, and then it will just
Right,
sit there
right.
gathering dust. Um, have you? I know you said that you get um, sort of people close to you to read your work. Have you ever used beta readers that you found online or that you don't particularly know?
There've been a couple times that I've done that, and I've had good experience with them. I think it was through Twitter that I found a couple
Hmm.
through some those the pitch kind of activities they have online sometimes. Um,
Mm.
one of, one of the things I do like is to read to my husband because he loves to poke holes in the plot. He's like, okay, what about that? What about that? No, that doesn't make sense. It's like, okay, I don't want to hear it, but I do. So it's good to have somebody to kind of, kind of do that, kind of just poke holes all in it, and you can
Hmm.
try to rectify it a little bit.
I think it's good when people close to you are willing to be critical because
Yeah.
it's so easy for them to be like, "Oh, that's amazing! I can't believe you did that! Wow!" Um, but yeah, I can rely on my mum to be really critical.
Hmm. Hmm.
She's savage. I kind of love it
Oh.
though. There was I sent her I think it was a couple of chapters and she read them. And I said, please be kind. And she said, if you want me to be kind, I'm not going to read them.
Wow.
um, and I can't remember exactly what she said, and I'm going to say this out of context because it sounds even funnier. She sent me an email back, and it said something along the lines of, "I haven't got any notes except one. If she's going to break into somebody's house to use their bathroom, why doesn't she put on a pair of shoes?" And I'm always going to tell that story without context because it sounds hilarious. But
That's
I was
funny.
like, okay, that makes sense, but you're wrong, and I'm not going to change that.
But yeah, you've got to
Oh.
have the people you don't want to be surrounded by yes people
Mm.
because it doesn't challenge you.
Oh, exactly. And you need to be able to improve. I was talking to
Absolutely.
uh, another author, Katie Carlisle, who kind of says a very similar thing. There's you can find people that are going to kiss your butt and tell you that you're amazing, but they're not helping you to improve and grow
Right.
and develop what you're doing. And that's one of the main things that we do when creating anything, whether it's writing or painting, is continuous improvement and always trying to be as the best that we can possibly be. And it takes a lot of work, and it takes. I don't take criticism very well. I need it wrapped up in a bow, and I need you to be
Yeah,
kind about it.
I need a little bit of little fluff
Mhm.
before and after.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. I call that a shit sandwich. Um, but yeah, I think I that's improving for me, but it's taking a long time. Did you find that you're able to take criticism now that you have sort of gotten a few things out there?
I'm much better at taking criticism now. Uh,
Mm.
before, early on, it was like, well, this has got to be good. I've done all this work and all this passion. How could it not be? And now it's like, oh, okay, yeah, let's go through it again. So, yeah, my little illusion or delusion, my little perfect bubble just burst, and that was the best thing that could happen to me.
I think once you get out of your own way and realize that if you're asking for critique and people are giving it to you, you've gotten what you asked for.
Right,
And if they're trying to critique you, and I think it's very easy to recognize if people are just saying, "Oh, it's terrible" because they're being mean or whatever,
right, yes,
and not
very
being
good thinking.
constructive. They just want you to do well,
Yep,
and it's probably better to just see it as a compliment that they care enough about you to, give you advice.
that's a way to look at it.
Yeah. It's challenging anyway. I think I'm
Yeah.
still going to get a little bit upset every time somebody says anything other than that's amazing. But that's my own flaw. That's something that I'm going to work on, but it's not something I'm going to work on actively.
Okay. At least you're honest.
Yeah, I mean, I can't be good at everything.
That's well, that's true.
Is there anything that you feel like we've missed, or anything that you'd like to add or include in the episode?
No, I think your questions were great. You made me feel very comfortable.
Oh, I'm
Um,
glad.
I feel like this is, I don't know, this is like your thing. You're just so good at this, just putting people at ease and seriously coming up with the questions. Yeah,
I'm trying. I'm
you're doing
trying.
a fine job.
Thank you. I think I'm just driven by if I had to do this for me, I probably wouldn't have even started it. But because I'm seeing this huge community of people who are, I don't know how to describe it. I keep saying screaming into the void because it still feels like that. And there are so many resources out there, but they're oversaturated resources. So I'm trying to toe this fine line between becoming a place where I'm not the place, but creating a place where
Right, right.
people can be themselves and be creative and share their creativity with other people, and go somewhere to find advice that's kind, because there's already enough negativity out there,
That's
and
true.
to also help readers find their next favorite author by getting to know them a bit better. I think
Mhm.
that's why I'm putting a lot of effort into it, and why hopefully it's coming across that I'm doing it because I care. Um, but yeah, it's been a really, really fun journey for me. And I think, as I've said pretty much every single episode, I've read books I wouldn't have gone anywhere near.
That's so cool.
Um,
That is so cool.
it is cool. I'm
Yeah.
hoping to start getting other people to do the same thing, because when you learn about somebody's experiences and then you read their book afterwards,
Mhm.
it's a different book. Different book.
Yes, that's
You
true.
you read. So I don't like, as a standard. If I Before all this happened, I didn't like fantasy books, romance, sci-fi. I love sci-fi films. Big sci-fi
Mhm.
film fan.
Mhm.
That was difficult to say. Not sci-fi books, because I read very, very, very quickly, and I
Mhm.
skip stuff, which is terrible because it's a labor of love that somebody's put a lot of thought into. But I can't help it. That's just how I learned to read.
Mhm.
Um, and so I miss really integral parts of the plot, and I'm like, who the hell? Who is that? Why? What is that word? That's made up. And so I find it really hard. And now I'm reading them slower, because I'm like, okay, so such and such said that they used to be such and such, and that's why they put that in the book. And now I'm reading it as if they're talking to me, and it feels really cool, because you read a book, you go to Barnes and Noble, for example, you pick up a novel and you start reading it, and you finish the book and then you put it down. You might
Mhm.
think about it sometimes, but it's kind of an open and shut experience for me anyway. I forget that there are people behind them, because it's gone through this long process of making it really, really detached from the person that wrote it in the first place. So
Yeah.
yeah, very
What's been,
exciting.
really cool with Spaces is there's a couple of people on that I've bought their book, and so
Mm,
after I hear them on Spaces, so as I'm reading, I hear them reading it to me. It's just such a neat, just a whole different level,
I
another
love that.
layer to that. It's a very neat experience.
It's that is very, very cool. And the other thing about reading indie books is that you can almost always um be in some sort of contact with the writer and ask them questions.
Mhm.
Most people are excited to talk about their work. So, I mean, I'm not inviting anyone to just start emailing random writers out of
Right.
nowhere, but it seems like it's this more obtainable experience, that gives you more depth and the ability to get inside the brain of the person, and makes it far more personal and a bit more
Yeah,
intimate as well.
definitely
So,
does.
oh, that's
Definitely.
cool. So I just want to thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I'm just really glad that you took a chance on a stranger. um, so before we go, I just wanted to know. Well, I wanted our listeners to know where they can find you and your work.
First, you've been a pleasure, and this has been so much fun, and thank you for having me. You can find my work on Amazon. There's Singing to the Fere Moon,
Mhm,
then Of the Lilin, and that's a YA paranormal, and
mhm,
then When Life Was Yellow, a memoir of obsessive compulsive disorder. Again, all those are on Amazon. And if you want to check me out on Twitter, I
mhm.
am Paulette, it's Paulette Hampton 42. So you'll see my smiling face on there. You'll know it's me.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And you also have an author feature on the website, so on indiosyncrasy.com, and I will put the links to everything in the bio as well. Because when this episode comes out, everything will be live, and I will probably have less hair, because I'll have pulled it out. So yeah, thank you again for being on the show today, and
Oh,
I'm
you've been
hoping that.
amazing.
Oh, thank you. You've been great, and I really look forward to hearing about how you've hopefully met listeners and uh, had more book sales. I hope to have you on again in the future for
I would
another
love
episode if you'd be interested. But
absolutely.
yeah,
This is so much fun.
thank you again, and have a good rest of the day.
Thank you. You too.